I'm Elle Embers, and this is Cosmic Curiosities.
Hello, curious souls, and welcome back to Cosmic Curiosities. Today's episode is, honestly, one of my favorites. And it's probably a little different to what you're used to, but this episode is full of stories. It's full of synchronicities. There's discussions about dreams, about past lives, about the concept of time, spirit guides, and much, much more. But to sum it all up, I think this episode is really about discovering the magical moments in life. And joining me today is the wonderful actor and storyteller, Harry Hart-Browne. Now, I have split this episode into 2 parts. And of course, I have split it right where things get interesting. But I promise we will be picking it up right where we left off next week. And speaking of magical moments, I am holding a virtual workshop, A Cosmic Journey, next weekend. This event is all about releasing your past to step into a brighter and better future. And if you've been feeling stuck lately, like you just aren't sure what your next step is, or where to go from here, you are not going to want to miss this event. So if you'd like to join me on this journey for a virtual past life regression and cosmic channeling experience, you can visit my website, lembers.com/events, or visit the link in the show notes. But now, are we ready for some magic? Harry, thanks so much for joining me. How are you?
Al, I'm so happy to be here with you. I'm really enjoying your company already.
Oh, I'm so grateful. To start off, I would ask you to introduce yourself to everyone and tell everyone a little bit about what you do.
Certainly. My name is Harry Hart-Browne. I've been an actor since memory. Probably age 8, I think, is when it really kicked in, and I realized that was my passion in life. But as I got a little older, I realized I also had a passion about the spiritual side of life. And so throughout the years, I found ways to combine my love of acting with my love of spiritual matters, and wrote a one-person play where I could act, but it had a spiritual theme, things like that. What I'm doing currently in the spiritual vein is I've created a YouTube series called Holy Mackerel Moments. So when I saw your podcast called Cosmic Curiosities, I thought, oh, this sounds like a match, because that's just what Holy Mackerel Moments are. They are cosmic curiosities. Just as a sidebar, I was going through YouTube the other night, and there was this, I don't know how old she was. I think she was a teenager. And she was talking about this whole string of synchronicity she had. And not only that, she said, it's my favorite word. And she had it tattooed on her arm. So I think young people are getting more and more tuned in to these wonders of life. Anyway, back to my videos. Holy Mackerel Moments are about synchronicity, dreams, all those cosmic curiosities that we can't explain, but they are fascinating. And I attempt to make them entertaining as well. So that's pretty much what I'm focused on now, as well as auditioning, and I'm a storyteller at schools also.
Yeah, and I have watched quite a few of your Holy Mackerel Moments,
Oh,
and I love the videos and the little added extras into them. It just makes it cute and so funny. So yeah, I love it.
oh, thank you. Thank you. I loved hearing your podcast. I was blown away by your introduction. I think it was the first episode, and you explained how you had these gifts from a very young age and didn't quite know what to do with them. And they weren't always happy making. But after a long series of evolutions, you went, okay, it's part of me. I'm embracing them, I'm using them, and I'm sharing them. I think that's so fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
To start things off, I like to ask a few little icebreaker questions to lighten the mood a little bit. And I know that we have a lot of fun when we talk, so I thought this would be fun.
Okay. Well, make the light mood even lighter.
So, what is your favorite color, book, and ice cream flavor?
We do the last one first? No, I'm kidding. It's just I really love ice cream. My colors have changed over the years. When I was a kid, it was red, 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 red. And I had a really cozy red corduroy shirt that I loved. It was heavy and soft and cozy. And then my sister said, my favorite color is green. She was my older sister. So I thought, well, maybe she's got something there. And then I began to notice the leaves and the trees and the grass. I thought, green's not too bad either, not too shabby as colors go. So through the years, I kind of switched from red to green. And then I thought, I like burnt orange and brown, which is my name. So at present, I'd have to kind of narrow it to what they call earth colors. I love all shades of green and rusts and browns, reds, and oranges. All of those, I would say, are my top bunch of favorites. Oh, that was the first question. Okay, second book. Again, that has evolved through the years. I'm going to put out a few titles that, if any of your listeners, resonate or go, bing, that sounds interesting, because they've really enriched my life.
Yeah.
And I'll focus on my all-time favorite. The Findhorn Garden book. There are many books about the amazing garden in Scotland, but my favorite is called the Findhorn Garden book, which is full of black and white photographs and texts of these people who they started meditating on this barren seashore in Scotland, and the meditation message was start a garden. And the land was barren. There was like sagebrush, or, that was about it as far as plants go. And they went, that's a ridiculous suggestion. How can we start a garden? And guidance said, use the seaweed in the ocean as mulch. And they went, oh, okay. And they did. And long story short, they had a huge garden because they took their gardening tips from the guidance they got in meditation. And, they get messages like, hello, I'm the pear blossom diva, and I'm the fairy that overlooks the blah, 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 blah. And all these garden lessons were also how manifestation happens in life. They're fascinating. So number one, I'd say Findhorn Garden book. Second is Woman on the Edge of Time. It's a novel by Marge Piercy about a woman in New York who's having a horrible time, and she blips into a future reality where all the people in her current life in New York have counterparts in the future reality, but the counterparts are their best selves. They're not burdened with baggage and wounds and pain. They're kind of living the hippie, dream of communal living. And in fact, she wrote this many years ago, decades ago, is so ahead of her time because the people in the future reality, we're talking about gender fluid and binary stuff. Well, in her novel, they refer to each other as per, P-E-R, short for person. Simple, easy, and everyone fits.
Yeah.
So that's a great second book. My third one is The Education of Oversoul 7. Back in the 70s, there was a big trend of reading Seth books. It's the first time pretty much anyone had heard about the phenomenon of channeling. And this woman named Jane Roberts channeled this spirit named Seth and did a whole series of incredible books, just rich with dense but fascinating information. And when I read it in my early 20s, I thought, I knew this. This material is tapping what I already knew but forgot. And the memories just surfaced of information about how life works. And I've since read that Marianne Williamson, do you know of her? Yeah, she's a huge spiritual leader and author and so on. She started her spiritual journey with the Seth books. Anyways, Jane Roberts wrote a novel based on the Seth teachings. And one of the big teachings is all time is simultaneous. So in the novel, there's an oversoul who's overlooking the lives of those earthly beings he's kind of in charge of, or at least in charge of guiding them. And he has a teacher who's helping guide him on how to guide. And so the people on earth that he's kind of overseeing are a cave woman back in the cave days, a 16th century artist, an elderly woman in a nursing home in the present time, and a 13-year-old boy in the future. And I can go into that later if you want, because the overlaps in time. Like he would send the artist who was dry inspirationally. He had a blank canvas. What am I going to paint? Oversoul would send him a picture of a beautiful landscape. And he went, oh, now I know what I'm going to paint. It helped him. But that same picture helped the old lady living in the present nursing home, because that landscape of the great outdoors triggered her sense of adventure and sparked her desire to go take a road trip before she died. So she did. So that's the third book. And the last one, which is my current favorite, and I think I mentioned it to you or emailed you about it, is The Boy Who Saw True.
Yeah.
Oh, I know I told you about it because your story reminded me so much of this boy. Here's the amazing thing. He's a boy in the 1880s England, kept a diary. This book is available on Amazon. It's published. It's by anonymous because the material in it could be so controversial. His widow, after he died, had it published at his request. Don't publish it till after I die. And don't use my name because relatives in the family might get embarrassed. Thing about this boy was it's his actual diary, and he was clairvoyant and didn't know it. And his entries are very funny, like he puzzle over grown-up words and look them up in the dictionary and they get even more confused. But along this, real authentic childlike scenario were his gifts and his bewilderment. Like one of the first times he was aware of it, when one day his father came home from work and hugged everyone, was about to sit down in his favorite chair. And the boy said, "Father, don't sit there. You'll sit on Uncle Henry." And his father stared at him. And his mother said, "What did you say?" And his father said, "Son, you know Uncle Henry has been dead for 2 years." And the boy said, "Yes, I know he's been dead for 2 years. And he's also sitting in your chair right now." And his parents got so confused, and his mother got really upset. Like, "Why are you talking like that?" And she sent him to bed in a very cold way. And he just started crying. "No one understands me. I saw Uncle Henry." And then he saw a vision of Jesus at the foot of his bed with a smile, as if to say, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." And he said, and I fell asleep feeling much better, knowing that at least Jesus wasn't mad at me. Then you come to find out that the apparition who appeared as Jesus was actually a Mideastern man halfway across the world in his sleep state, visiting the boy in his dream body, but taking the appearance of Jesus because the boy was raised Christian and that was an image that he could relate to.
Yeah.
He also saw lights, what he called lights, which were auras. And he would say to his elder sister, Mildred, "Why does Aunt Peggy have pretty pink lights and Uncle Bob's is dark and muddy?" And she'd go, "What are you talking about? People don't have lights." He said, "Yes, they do. Do you need glasses? Don't you see them?" No one could see them. No one knew what the heck he was talking about until he found a tutor who's very open to these ideas. And he would tell the tutor, "Oh, I saw an elf in the backyard today, and I see a woman in a shawl standing right behind you with a silver tipped cane." And he went, "My God, that's my mother." Anyway, this is an incredible book, and I highly recommend it to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Color, book, now ice cream. It's always been chocolate, but again, evolving through the years, I've kind of leaned toward coffee. And so something like Jamocha almond fudge, which is both, is probably my favorite kind of ice cream. And in fact, in the freezer right now, I have a pint of coffee and a pint of chocolate, and I mix them together.
Yum.
I'm not against vanilla. I'm fine with strawberry, but I don't understand how people could prefer them over chocolate and coffee. But that's la différence, right? Everyone, variety is the spice of life. May I ask you your favorite ice cream flavor?
I go a bit more on the frozen yogurt sorbet side. So I like the really tropical fruity flavors. So like your mango and your passion fruit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm open. I don't think they'll be my favorites, but now that you've said that, I'll probably look at them again and go, maybe I'll pick up a pint of sorbet.
Try something different.
Exactly. It's fun.
So I guess we should ask, leading into synchronicities, what led you to your interest in life's little synchronicities?
I think the first time I became aware that they existed was in school. I don't remember what grade. It was probably seventh or eighth grade. And I don't know in Australia if you have in your school system homeroom class.
Yeah.
One day in homeroom class, while people were still filing in before the bell rang to begin the official school day, two boys who sat in front of me, who were best friends, Bob and Gary, sat down at the same time, looked at each other, spoke, and burst out laughing. And I later found out what they said was in unison, I had the weirdest dream last night. And then they told about their dreams. Well, after they did that, they were laughing even more and they had this astonished look on their faces. I said, what? And they explained to me what they had just said to each other. Bob told Gary his dream of the night before. He had been at a carnival, walking down the midway, and there are rides, and there are food stands, and there are games of chance. And in the dream, he was hungry, so he stopped at a food stand and ordered an egg salad sandwich. He took one bite out of it, put it down on the paper plate, looked around at the carnival, went back to the sandwich. It was gone. And that was his dream. But after he told it, his friend Gary was like, his jaw was dropped to the floor. And Bob said, what? Why do you look like that? What was your dream? Gary said, my dream was I was in my house. I went to my basement. There was nothing in the basement but a refrigerator. I opened the refrigerator door. There was nothing in it except an egg salad sandwich with one bite taken out of it. So I ate it. I was hungry. And Bob said, you ate the rest of my sandwich. But when they told me that, I thought, geez, Louise, what are the chances? You know, you could dream about vague things, but it's so specific. On the same night, an egg salad sandwich with a bite taken out of it. I went, this is really cool and interesting. And that, I think that's what triggered my interest. And then I became aware of little ones in my life. And I would get so excited as a kid. I go up to my parents and say, or my sister, I forget who, but grown-ups. I go, look, this happened. And then that happened. And they're like connected kind of in a weird way, right? And they kind of look at me and go, yeah, that's called a coincidence. I go, oh, all right, it's called a coincidence. Like they kind of, it was like a wet blanket on my excitement. It's like, oh, it's just a coincidence. That's all. But I did not find it trivial. I found it important and fascinating. So my whole life I've been open to them, collecting them, experiencing them. Because when you think of the implications of any of these synchronicities, large or small, it speaks to like a genius of life that is so way beyond us that they're able to make these things happen the way they do. It blows my mind.
I mean, even just the synchronicities on us meeting.
Yeah.
Before contacting you, I wanted to be like, hey, I really love your YouTube channel and I'd really love to chat with you. And then after I'd spoken to you and we scheduled a meeting,
Right.
I was watching Seinfeld. I was rewatching old episodes of Seinfeld just for cause. And the episode that you actually guest starred in as the hotel manager was you. And then when I was actually reading in your bio and everything, I saw that you were in an episode of Seinfeld and I'm like, no way. This is the same guy.
Wait, this is more amazing than I remember us talking about when we first talked about it. In the profile, did I mention that I've been on Seinfeld?
I don't think so.
Probably not, because it was more about Holy Mackerel synchronicity stuff, not my acting credits. But then,
Yeah.
So you thought, I want to reach out to this guy. Meantime, you're watching Seinfeld, yeah, and you've been watching all of them, but on this particular night, after you became aware of me, you happened upon the episode I was in, out of hundreds of episodes.
Yeah.
But are you saying if I look familiar to you in the episode, you had seen a still photo? Oh no, you've been watching my videos.
Mm-hmm.
So you knew what I look like now. You recognized me from the Seinfeld?
Yeah.
Hell, that's mind-blowing.
I know, right? And it was just an inkling. It was like, I feel like I know that guy from somewhere.
Or maybe the voice too. I had one
Yeah.
so-and-so, a message for you. Maybe that rang a bell too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'll look it up and see, if it's, some actor that I have seen in something else, or, where the connection was. And it was you. And I was like, oh my God, this is the guy I just spoke to.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's amazing. Can I tell you one like that, but different, that I experienced? We have retro channels, which shows old TV shows that were big in the 60s and 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to look at them in the morning sometimes while I was waking up. I'd be on the couch with Puff and my cat on top of me. And I love the news. I watch the news, but sometimes the news was so grim. I can't take it anymore. And I'd go for something light, watch Leave It to Beaver or these old sitcoms. One afternoon, I was home. I was watching television, and I thought, I want to go to that retro channel, which I'd never watched in the afternoons. I didn't even know what was on, but something was pulling me to flick to that channel. So I did. And it was the closing moments of an episode of Bonanza, which is a Western that was very popular in the 1960s in America. But the thing is, it was the episode of Bonanza that guest starred Nita Talbot, who was an old friend of mine. And I looked it up. There are 270 episodes of Bonanza. But for some reason, I was pulled to change the channel and catch the episode that a dear old friend of mine appeared on. And if that wasn't cool enough, later that day, I thought, wait a minute. And I looked at the calendar. That day also happened to be Nita's birthday.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So I just love all this stuff.
Yeah. And how has acknowledging synchronicities in your own life kind of changed your perspective on the universe?
I'm more trusting of it. I feel less alone. I feel less vulnerable. I feel like somebody's got my back. And knowing this, it's a real challenge to let go of my addiction to worry and my habit of being fearful, which maybe is part of being human because it's so difficult. But after so many magical things happen, it's like, who am I to doubt? And so that's been the huge change. And it's something I still work with every day. I easily go into, oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? And now a friend of mine uses a stop sign image. She goes, put up the stop sign. Just stop that thinking right then and there. I go, yeah. So I'm starting to use the stop sign when I get scared, and change my thoughts, and then hoist up the vibes, think of happier things, and I can feel things changing in me. And then they say what you focus on is what you get. And then that's a step toward manifesting physically or in life circumstances what you're focused on in your thoughts. There's a great quote. Someone said, worrying is praying for what you don't want. And it's like, yeah, if that's what's in your head, that's very well welcome it into your life. Oh, can I tell you a story about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. When I say about that, I mean about manifesting what you think about. I knew a guy named Neville years ago, very spiritual. He's so sweet. I went to a weekly meditation group with him in a friend's home. And when he told us about a house he had in Los Angeles in not a very safe neighborhood, it had a little bit of everything, but there was crime. And he lived there 16 years. And as an affirmation to his belief that our thoughts create our reality, he said, you know what? I'm going to protect my home with my thoughts. I could easily use a key and lock my doors. I'm not going to. I'm going to routinely put a bubble of white light of protection on it, over it whenever I leave. And again, when I come home, I'll just use my thoughts maybe once or twice a day to make sure my home is protected. That put him in good stead, and he lived in a safe home for 16 years. One day his sister called and said, Neville, I'm kind of stuck. I sold my house and the new people are moving into it next week. And I have my new house, but that's not going to be available to me to move into until 2 weeks from now. And I have to get out for these new people to come in. So I need a place to stay in the interim, about a week and a half. And I have all my stuff with me. He said, of course you can stay with me. Oh, thank you. But she brought all her stuff and he got it, wedged into his house, and so happy to see her. And her first night there, He said, may I take you out to dinner? She said, I would love it. So they left the house. They're walking to the car and she stops. Neville, you didn't lock your door. He said, oh, I know. I don't do that. She said, what? He said, I don't lock my I don't lock my doors. I keep them safe with white light. Of course, this was a new concept to his sister. She said, Neville, all my stuff is in your house. I work hard at my job. I save money diligently, and I've worked for months to save enough money to buy myself a new stereo system. It's brand new, and I love it, and it's in your house. I would be devastated if anything happened to it, if it was harmed or stolen. Please, as a favor to me, lock your door. I said, well, all my stuff, new or old, has been safe for 16 years with the white light. But honey, for you, I'll do it. I'll break tradition and I'll lock my door. She said, thank you. That's just going to give me peace of mind because, like I said, that stereo system is very important to me and I would hate for anything to happen to it. He said, I understand. They went out to dinner. They were gone 2-3 hours. They come back. The door was open. The home had been broken into.
Oh,
Nothing
no.
had been taken from his home except his sister's stereo system.
Oh, no.
What you think is what you get.
Yep.
Is that amazing?
Oh, no. How bad would you feel, too? Breaking tradition that one time.
I'd feel bad if I was the sister. I should have trusted you. Oh my God.
Yep.
I mean, maybe he did feel guilty, but he was just doing, what she asked, and
Yeah.
what happened.
Oh, gosh.
Hey, can we tell the listeners about our other synchronicity?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. And this is important to me because this hoisting up the vibes thing is kind of a new concept to me, stopping the negative thoughts and, replacing them. I mean, I shouldn't say it's new. I've been reading about it and hearing about it for many years. What's new to me is I'm actually using it in my everyday life.
It's one thing to know about it, but it's another thing to practice it. Yeah.
I'll say it really takes effort. It takes such diligence, but the rewards are well worth it. As I found out one day, I'm driving home furious because I had this light coming on my dashboard saying there's something wrong with your tire. And my mechanic said, that's a sensor problem, not a tire problem. You need to go to the professional over here. So I went to the professional. He said, it'll be about 2 hours and we'll fix it and we'll call you on your cell phone when it's ready. I said, thank you. So I walked around the neighborhood in about an hour and a half. Your car's ready. Thank you. I went, picked it up, drove it. Halfway home, the light comes back on the dashboard, showing that the sensor had not been fixed. I called him. He said, I'm sorry. Bring it in again. We'll fix it this time. I brought it in again. Same thing. Hours later, it's ready. Driving it home. I got it home. No problem. But the next day I'm driving. Boink, the light came back on again. I called him again. He said, I am so sorry. Bring it again. You know what? We fixed the sensors on 2 and then 3 of the 4 tires. This time, we're going to fix them on all 4 tires. I should have done that to begin with. I said, sure, I understand. So I go back a third time. He does all the sensors. I thank him. I'm on my way home, halfway home. Boing, the light came on again, and I lost it. I was so angry because I had things to do. And this was hours walking. I was around some neighborhood I didn't know in the heat. And finally it's fixed and it's not, and it's not, and it's not again. And
Yeah.
and it was so bad. It was laughable. It was like, again, are you kidding me? So even then I had a little humor about it. And then I stopped. It was before I had my friend tell me about the stop sign image, but I managed to stop anyway and say, Harry, stop it. You're helping no one, at least of all yourself. Your car will get fixed. You're spinning your wheels mentally and you're just staying in a negative place unnecessarily. Okay, let it go. Trust it'll get fixed, one thing at a time. And now think about something that makes you happy. And I did. For the first time, maybe ever, I just got those vibes up, changed my thoughts. And the first thing the first thing I could think of that made me feel happy were these YouTube videos I've been watching called, I think it's called Griffin Frenchie, this sweet family with a baby now, but before the baby came, these two incredible little French bulldogs who do trust falls. They fall backwards into the lap of their human, just with their little feet up in the air. And, oh, they're just so lovable. So I started thinking about the French bulldog videos, and sure enough, my energy changed, the anger just evaporated, the joy, the sweetness, the energy lightened, and I felt so good. As I was feeling good, visualizing the French bulldogs on YouTube, the voice on my car radio said, French bulldogs are very popular now. What the? I couldn't believe the timing. I'm thinking of them, and the voice says it at the same time. I went, whoa. And then I just took it as a high five from the universe saying, you got your vibes up. Here's a little synchronicity reward. I went, man, I thank you. And then I'm so happy for the rest of the week. And then my mechanic said, you know what? Why don't you try this other mechanic? This was my main mechanic referring me to another tire sensor specialist. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that Friday, I went to this other specialist and I had to wait and walk around. And then he said, it's fixed. I said, let me ask you, because I've been through a lot with this repair. On a scale from 1 to 10, how confident are you that the repair job you did is permanently fixed? He said, 100. I said, great. On 1 to 10, you're telling me 100. I'm going to trust you. I'm going to believe it. Then we're chatting small talk. The man happens to mention he has a French bulldog. I went, oh my God, it hasn't stopped. I thought that was so cool. I told a classroom of kids what I just told you. And the kids are going, cool. And then afterwards, the teacher walked up to me holding up his phone, showing me a photograph of his French bulldog. So, Elle, when you and I had our screen call, I told you all this. And afterwards, there was silence from you. And of course, being a worrier and being paranoid, I thought she didn't like my story. She's going to say, Harry, that's not appropriate for my podcast. I mean, thank you for telling it, but this whole thing is just not what I'm looking for. That's my problem. So in the silence, I'm thinking that. And then very slowly you said, shall I say it? I went, oh no, here it comes. She's going to lower the boom and criticize my story. I said, yeah, go ahead, say it. And you said, I have a French bulldog. I went, oh my God, that's a happy thing.
Yep. I was so amazed by the connections that you had in that story. And yeah. I'm like, oh, I'm sitting there and I'm staring at my dog. And I'm like, I should say something.
Oh God, yes. Oh God, yes. But your tone was so even. You didn't give it away if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I thought, what is she talking about? All she says is, shall I say it? I went, oh, what? And then you tell me I have a French bulldog. Oh my God. And then you send me a photo of it. And sure enough, he's the cutest thing. And you're holding him. And there he is in real life.
Yeah.
So here's my PS.
Mm-hmm.
On my YouTube channel of Holy Mackerel Moment videos, I found out that they have the potential to be monetized if you have at least 1,000 subscribers. And a friend, urged me to say, please subscribe on the video so I can, get the numbers up there so I can get it monetized. Well, at this time, I had 160 some. I thought, well, this is a long-term project. To go from 160 to 1,000 might take a little time. Meantime, I had heard of a psychic on YouTube who put a donation link beneath her video. So if you'd like to help support this channel, I'll put a link below. And one of them said, and 10% of whatever comes in, I will give to this charity. I thought, well, that's a good idea. So, and I thought of a charity called The Nature of Wild Works, which is a woman who takes care of unreleasable wild animals. It's a wildlife care center of all kinds of species. I thought, and they're always needing money because animals eat and it's very expensive. So I thought that's what I'll do, but I have no idea how to do it. So I called PayPal and I said, I'm interested in having someone walk me through how to post a donation link beneath my YouTube video. And she said, oh, okay, I've never done that. So we can learn how to do it together. I went, oh, great. Okay. She could have been nicer. And she was like doing her thing. And she's like, oh, I see. So I think we're supposed to blah, 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 blah. And she figured it out really quickly. And I put the link below and it's there. And so I said, thank you so much. She said, you're welcome. And she was so friendly and she didn't seem in any hurry. I knew she was, on her job, on the clock, but I thought, well, maybe I can get another viewer for my videos. I said, by the way, this donation link is beneath a series of videos I do called Holy Mackerel Moments. And it's about these wonderful moments in life of synchronicity, blah, 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 blah. And she went, oh, interesting. And that just fed me. It's like, oh, yeah, you like it? You want to hear more? So I told her the hoisting up the vibes French Bulldog story, starting in the car, getting the vibes up, hearing it on the car radio, hearing it from the second mechanic, hearing it from the teacher in the classroom, and then hearing it from you on our screen call. I tell her all of that. Again, a pause. I went, she didn't get it at all. I said, so? She said, so? My son breeds French Bulldogs.
Oh my God.
Kidding. I'm not kidding. So I expect my door to fly open and a French Bulldog to come running in any second, the way this is going.
That's amazing. Like, I know French Bulldogs are quite a popular breed, but to have that many synchronicities line up together that's a lot.
I agree. And thank you for saying that, because I told the first part of this to a friend of mine because the second part hadn't happened yet. And she said, Harry, French Bulldogs are very popular. Like, it's not a big deal. They are everywhere. It's like, well, not everywhere. They're in a lot of places. But to be in my trajectory in my life, pop, 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 like 4 in a row like that, I think it's pretty holy mackerel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I tell you more? Did you want to ask another question?
Well, yeah, tell us more. But also, okay. I wanted to ask if you could share a little bit about the story that led you to creating your show, Holy Mackerel Moments, as well, because that is an interesting story as well.
You mean what I talk about in that first episode of how I got
here?
Okay.
Just to paint
you saw more recently
everybody.
than I did, so correct me. Right. But if I'm mistaken, because it's fresher in your mind than it is in mine. But I think I remember kind of how I went through it. Because I'm so fascinated by these stories and because I knew I could videotape myself on an iPhone. That was so exciting to me. I did what I called Amazing True Stories. And it was just me sitting in front of my place with the plants in the background, the camera on a tripod going, hi, here's a true story about blah, blah, blah. And they were kind of leisurely and kind of, relaxed. And I just thought the content was so incredible. I wanted to get it out there. I wanted to share it. And so I did a few, and then I kind of lost interest. I got distracted by other things. And then this old family friend named Erin called me out of the blue. She'd just written a book called From Beaten to Badass. And she went through a horrendously painful life journey with all kinds of pains and anguish and tragedies and challenges. But she just said, you're not going to get me down. And hence the title, Beaten to Badass. Now she's a public speaker and she's highly successful. So we were talking about that. We were catching up. And she says, so what are you doing? I said, well, I'm acting. I'm telling stories. I got this and that going. Oh, and I'm making these little videos called Amazing True Stories. And they're true stories about amazing things like dreams and spirits and synchronicity, stuff like that. She said, why don't you make a thing out of it? I said, what? She said, make it a thing. I said, what are you talking about? She said, like get a logo, get a catchphrase, kind of, make it kind of sparkly with bells and whistles and then get it out in the world and get your things monetized and do merch, sell coffee mugs or whatever. I said, oh, no, that's not for me. But she planted a seed about kind of making it more pizzazzy. And I thought, well, since I made those videos, I have learned how to edit. And there's a story I'd love to tell, which has visual aspects to it, which I couldn't do in the original videos. But if I know how to edit, I can actually stick in the picture. It'd be much cleaner looking and not wobbly. So I started thinking this could be fun. Amazing True Stories, it's nice, but maybe I can think of something jazzier. So I really got excited about making these new videos with the same kind of stories, but more condensed and more punchy entertainment wise with the editing and the video clips,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. I thought, what should I call it? And I think I was considering Holy Mackerel Moments because to me, these moments make me say, many things like, oh my God, or what the, or holy, and I thought of all the expressions of surprise, but the one that kept coming up repeatedly was holy mackerel. So I was eager to get started, but I didn't know if that was the right name for it. So I asked for a sign. Next day, I'm in bed watching the news. I'm ODing on the bad news. I go to Me TV, that retro channel that lightens me up every time. So I flicked over to a Leave It to Beaver episode. I hadn't been watching, but for a couple of seconds, and the character of Wally, played by Tony Dow, says, holy mackerel, Beaver, that's a great opportunity. I went, oh my God, I got my sign. I'm going to call it Holy Mackerel Moments. So I was all excited, all set to do it. A couple nights later, I'm talking to a friend on the phone, and she's just going on about this and that. She said, this happened and that happened. And I thought, holy moly. Bah, 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 bah. I went, oh, holy moly. Ooh, that rolls off the tongue nicely with those vowels. Holy moly moments. You even got the O sound in all three words. So we hung up, and I thought, maybe it's better than holy mackerel. Oh man, I couldn't decide. I was really divided in half about which title to choose. A couple days later, I'm on bed with the cat, watching the news, being bummed out by the news, going to Me TV. It's another Beaver episode. But I'm not even watching it. My head is to the side. I'm deep in thought about my new video series and what to call it. All of a sudden, my head moved by itself. There was no thought attached to it. My head moved to the side, so I was facing the screen. At that moment, when I looked at the screen, the camera panned up from Eddie Haskell to a wood paneled wall he was standing next to, and it kept going up until it landed on a stuffed mackerel fish on a plaque on the wall. Okay, got it. It's mackerel. Thank you. And it was definitely a big fish. And I've looked at pictures of mackerels. I do believe it was a mackerel fish. God knows it was not a mole. It was a fish. So I thought, that's my second sign, just to make sure holy mackerel is the name I should go with. Then I got a bonus, as if spirit's going, oh, you're doing so great. We're going to give you a treat. You don't even have to ask for it. We're going to give you a cherry on top. I'm looking at my iPhone. I'm scrolling down. I want to be entertained. There are these tarot readers that are really good. I'm like, oh, maybe. And then, no, not tonight. What. Then I see Candid Camera, which is an old TV series I used to watch. They do it now, but it's called punking, or,
Yeah.
playing tricks on people and videotaping it. And it was a very fun family show. And it said Candid Camera Classics, The Gorgeous Teacher. I went, that looks like fun. And it's grainy, it's black and white. It was probably 1965 or something. And the whole setup was this beautiful blonde, buxom teacher was sitting on a desk in front of these two like 12-year-old boys. And they're like staring at her. And she goes, hello, boys. I'm your substitute teacher today. So I look forward to working with you. I need to leave the room for a moment before school begins, but I just wanted to introduce myself. And it was lovely meeting you too. See you in a bit. And she walks out. And the boys are like, and they stare at each other. They shake their heads like they can't believe what they just saw. And then finally, one of the boys smacks his forehead with his palm. He just hits his head and goes, holy mackerel. Went, okay, thank you. Another holy mackerel. And that's how it began.
It's so funny that you had that little doubt in your intuition, and the universe was like, no, we're really going to solidify this for you, that there's no doubt left.
So well put. It's absolutely true. They cemented it in. What did you just say before you said no doubt? Solidify. They did. They solidified it for me with that, especially with that extra goodie. with the boy saying it. It's like, okay, no question now. No room for doubt now. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I remember you telling me a little bit about a story of a friend that you had who, was it a past life experience that she had, and in the Western...
Oh God, yes. I think I talk about that one in Holy Mackerel Moments, episode number 7, Dream On Part 2. Dream On Part 1 is just clips about dreams, people mentioning them in popular culture, so many references to dreams. I thought this is an episode of its own. Then episode 7 is actual amazing true dream stories, one of which it's a little complex, the one you mentioned. So I hope I convey it in a way that's clear enough for your listeners to get it. But it's worth doing it because it is so astonishing. Talking about, didn't I mention the Seth books earlier, that one of their teachings is all time is simultaneous?
Yeah.
This to me was a huge example of that. So my friend Vicky and I are talking on the phone. I'm in my little house in Hollywood with a Murphy bed. I just moved there. I got a window open at my desk talking on the phone. The wind is blowing. Things are coming through the window because there's a bush outside, and twigs and little leaves are coming in. I don't care. I love the wind. Vicky's telling me about this past life regression she had, in which she was a Chinese woman in the 1800s who did not like the repressed attitude toward women, and she wanted adventure. She wanted to live like a man. And she heard there was a thing called the California Gold Rush. So she disguised herself as a man and went to California and started panning for gold with the prospectors. They had no idea she was a woman. Her disguise was good. And she was having fun, but was a little lonely because, she didn't really make friends, mostly probably because she was Chinese and the other guys were Caucasian. And she felt a little left out, but she had no friends. So she would work with them during the day and then they'd go to the saloon at night. And in her memory, she was this woman disguised as a man sitting in the saloon. And I don't think I mentioned this in the retelling of it, but as she was watching the proceedings in the saloon, which included tables with guys playing poker and drinking beer and dance hall girls / prostitutes kind of working the room, this woman was aware that she could pick up the telepathic communications between the prostitutes.
Right.
For example, one would be, standing at the table and this guy would talking to her, flirting with her, and she clearly does not like the guy. And she looks at her friend a few feet away and telepathically says, "I'll give you a massage later if you take this guy tonight." So that was really interesting. And there were other aspects to it that is just too much to go into, but they were really interesting. No, I will go into an aspect because it fits. I didn't realize this till later. Before she became the woman who disguised herself as a man and went to California, she had lived with a Native American family. I don't know if she was kidnapped or abducted or what, but as a young Chinese woman, she lived with Native Americans. And her grandmother in that childhood taught her to read nature, to read nature's messages just by looking at the ground and looking at the leaves and the twigs. Her grandmother had a way of saying, this is a language. So she found that very interesting as a child. Then she had the whole adventure I just told you about in California. And then many years later, she was an old woman and she was outside in the snow wondering what she was doing there. And she saw twigs on the ground on top of the snow. And she said, "Oh my God, I haven't thought of this in years. This reminds me of when I was a child. And my grandmother taught me how to read the twigs. Oh, I see why I'm here. I'm coming full circle of my life. That was the beginning. And now this is the end."
Well, this is your Earth Side Spirit Guide signing off for the week. If you'd like to know more about how you can work with me, you can follow me on Instagram @l.embers or visit my website lembers.com.